All right, hello. It's Wednesday morning here. Um, a quick review of week 14 and then just a couple of comments about the final since I've gotten a couple of questions, phone calls about it. Okay. First, week 14, right? We're talking about other sources of income. And because without any money, we have no mission. And yes, there is the fundraising aspect of generating revenue. But as we learned from the first lesson, that for the sector as a whole is actually a small percentage of revenues. And so we think about other sources of revenue, in particular, first, the government. And the purpose of the Boris articles are simply to let you know that, government, working with government contracts, you need to enter any relationship with the government through contracts with your eyes wide open. There are, right, those 4 or 5 things that Boris mentions that human service organizations typically run into when they contract with the government. Um, and they seem to be chronic, although I will say I think they've gotten better over time. Um, so um, just make sure you enter those relationships with your eyes wide open so you don't end up like Ron in the CTC case study where he was clueless about some of those potential problems with government contracts. In his case, it was obviously cash flow. Okay. The second place where you can maybe get some revenue is by uh, selling fee for services, and that's actually sector wide where the issues are. Okay. Um, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Um, where fee for services are the actual main source of revenues for the sector as a whole. And so we went back to the New Stage Theater case study and we thought about what the assets were of the organization that could be turned into revenue streams. And in the discussion forum two, we talked about that, and you all came up with great ideas. And those ideas actually sort of fell into two categories. One was how can you use their physical assets, uh, to raise money. And the obvious one was the theater that they have. It's a nice theater. It can be rented out. You can have various activities in it. Some of you also talked about the props and the scenery and stuff, and how can you rent that to other organizations or to other people. So there's utilizing your capital resources. And there's also then what might be called intellectual property. The New Stage Theater is excellent and has a lot of knowledge about plays and drama and theater. And all of those could be turned into fee for services through classes about these various aspects of the theater. Uh, you talked about in the discussion forum, some of you talked about having youth camps. Some of you talked about having adult acting classes. Some of you had other issues, other ways of using the New Stage Theater's expertise in theater to generate money. And if I recall correctly, the theater, well, enough, okay? Um, so that was week 14. Week 15, let's focus here on the final. And the case study is a little more difficult than most because, one, it's long. There's a long narrative, and there's also lots of financial data and other data in the appendices. And the other reason why this is sort of a difficult course is that the challenges and the solutions to those challenges aren't right there on your uh, nose, aren't obvious, right? They're not like the nose on your face. Um, so I hope you've read the case study a number of times and and looked both at the narrative and at the data. Um, let's see. So as we've stressed throughout the course, right, no money, no mission. So uh, when you think about the first part of the assignment and thinking about the financial situation of the zoo, you want to focus on the profitability. So the operating ratio there is clearly important, but not just the operating ratio and whether it's trending one way or the other, up or down, or maybe it's, like this. You want to look at the revenue and account lines that are in one of the exhibits that, you know, clearly show what's driving the revenue up or down, what's driving the expenses up or down. And if you can crosswalk between that and the narrative, you'll see that there are a couple of drivers of the expense trend line and of the revenue trend line. And if you can then kind of figure out the key factors that are setting up the profitability of the organization, you can then start to think, oh, so this is a key to the financial sustainability of the organization. Right? There is the profitability, then you think about liquidity, and then you think about the debt load, right? Um, and so if you can sort of really sink your teeth into the financial situation of the organization and what drives it to be a healthy financial situation, you can then think about, okay, this should be my strategy because it complements my operating strategy, and we can work together. Those two can work together to maximize mission. Okay, and so once you have the strategy, then you think concretely. Well, how do I change that strategy into action? Okay, and that's the second part of the case study, right? Thinking about what to actually do given its current financial situation and the big picture in which the zoo operates. Okay, all right. So if you want, give a call. As I say, I've talked to a couple of you. Okay. And so we come to the end of the course. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've gotten some good stuff out of it. And I'll see you. Okay.